I'm Michael Carolina. I'm the Executive Director for the Oklahoma Center for the Advancement of Science and Technology. The acronym is OCAST, O-C-A-S-T. So we're the state's agency for technology development, technology transfer, and technology commercialization. We help to get science and technology projects, support those through our grant process. And so that's to elevate Oklahoma in the science and technology community, elevate Oklahoma's science and technology community so that we're competitive nationally as well as globally. So we have some leading edge researchers, some leading edge research companies that benefit from OCAST grants, and they're able to attract federal grants as well as private money from the private sector to accelerate research to commercialization or the conversion of technology to the marketplace. So we've been around for 30 years now, 31 years actually, as the state's agency. So we have strategic partnerships. OCAST is a public-private collaboration. So keywords there, partnerships and collaborations to stimulate economic development, technology-based economic development.
Can you give me an example of a success story?
Sure. On the health research side, our programs span health research, applied research. We support manufacturing, advanced manufacturing. So as well as capital investment, seed capital, supporting startup activities, as well as supporting existing companies. So in the area of health research, one of our researchers that I'll highlight and would become, I think, a part of this presentation is Craig Shimasaki of Moleculara, and they do autism studies, cognitive kinds of study, and so he's doing some work now on the impact of COVID or the correlation of COVID and brain health and mental health. So that's a real success story, and Craig Shimasaki was able to take an OCAST grant and leverage that with federal dollars as well as private investment to move the autism spectrum along. So that's very important for citizens, as it's it's an affliction that needs to, hopefully we'll have some effective treatments for it. On the immune side, we talked a little bit about immunity. We have some researchers at the Oklahoma Medical Research Foundation who received an OCAST grant, and they were able to move along into doing immune studies, immunological studies. And there too, with federal grants that resulted from an initial investment from OCAST. So that work is very important. On the applied side, we've granted funds to material science in helping to move that along, but was a big science of nanomaterials and nanotechnology. So we've got a number of companies that we've spawned in that regard as well. On the manufacturing side, about 10 to 12% of Oklahoma's GDP is manufacturing, with 5,000 manufacturers in the state of Oklahoma. So manufacturing is very strategic for our state, for our nation. Nationally, I think manufacturing is about 12% of the nation's GDP, with about 12 million people who work in manufacturing. So it's important. It's important strategically, and the way we are competitive in manufacturing is through integrating 3D printing, sensors, robotics into the manufacturing process. So we modernize manufacturing processes to become more competitive, more productive, and producing more gross margin and revenue. On the capital side, our partner is I2E, a 501c3 that invest under contract with OCAST, invest in startup companies so that we move them along a progression that helps them to compete in their market space. And we've had a number of successes there in software, through our seed capital plan. It's biological, bioscience, biotechnology, information technology, software development using platforms. So that full spectrum of activity, from research to pre-seed dollars to seed capital dollars to manufacturing, through intern partnerships. We've had a number of successful intern partnerships, and that's so that we develop the talent base we need to go forward, and we don't lose our engineering STEM talent to other states. And so if we have the kind of industrial base that's attractive to our graduates when they leave our higher education system, they're more likely to stay in the state because they have jobs in their specific areas of study. So that's kind of what we do. We're nationally recognized as a technology-based economic development agency, what we call TBED, the acronym TBED, Technology-Based Economic Development. So our partners are recognized nationally. The Oklahoma Manufacturing Alliance, which is based out of Tulsa, Oklahoma. I2E is based out of Oklahoma City. Each of us has offices across the state, primarily Oklahoma City and Tulsa, but we have satellite advocates and agents out in the field because we do promote economic development at the rural, regional, as well as urban levels. So Oklahoma's industrial base is strong. Our natural legacy is oil and natural gas, the fossil fuels, but we also have a lot of renewable activity going as well, and structures across our state with windmills. And so Oklahoma is number 2 or 3 in wind generated electricity. So we do have a lot of sunlight as well. So we're looking at solar. So those are the kinds of things that we focus on. How do we elevate Oklahoma in technology so that we are relevant and competitive in the national and international global landscape?
On the subject of Oklahoma, what would you like to say to motivate or encourage people or companies to stay here in Oklahoma and do great work?
Sure. Well, we have, in Oklahoma, we have things that we tout as being advantages. For instance, our central location. We're geographically in a good position because of supply chain issues. So we're in the center of the nation, I-35 and I-40, and a lot of traffic, a lot of logistics, supply chain management opportunities in our state. We have a low cost of living. We have copious energy, so we don't have typically brownouts, blackouts that you see on either coast sometimes because of dense population and a lot of industry. So continuity of electricity becomes important. Water is important to companies. If we try to attract them, or as we develop organically some companies, they stay in Oklahoma because there's a lifestyle here that they like. There are advantages in terms of utilities, cost of homes, cost of housing per square foot. So, and we have a pioneering spirit in this state. We've invented a lot of things, whether it's horizontal drilling, or whether it's the shopping cart or the parking meter. We're a pretty innovative population. We have great higher institutions of higher education at the state level. Oklahoma State University and University of Oklahoma, both strong universities, both with core competencies in areas that are growth areas. If we're talking autonomous vehicles, unmanned systems, drones. OSU, very good in that area and recognized as one of the top 10 universities for on autonomous systems. The University of Oklahoma is probably number one or two. I think number one in weather and radar. So we're very good in that area. The University of Tulsa is highly recognized in cybersecurity. And as we know, cyber crime, cybersecurity, data analytics are very important, will get even, have even greater importance going forward. So we try to leverage and do leverage our higher education universe, our research institutions, as well as our research foundations. I mentioned the Oklahoma Medical Research Foundation, and looking at immune diseases, diseases that are autoimmune diseases where the body attacks itself, such as cancer, diabetes, stroke, those kinds of disorders, lupus. So we've supported their research projects. They apply to OCAST. If they get a grant, they leverage that grant with an NIH grant, National Institutes of Health grant, and from private investment. So trying to make our state healthier, more and greater access to health care, affordability of health care. And that goes across our rural communities as well as our urban centers. So a lot of those projects and things that we do in research and how they make it to the marketplace and result in the healthcare, a better quality of life, OCAST plays a vital role in helping that along.
As executive director of OCAST, what's your job like? What's typical experience for you, if there is a typical experience?
It's not. It's sort of atypical because every day you come in, there's another challenge within our overall task. Our task is to grow and diversify Oklahoma's economy. So given that mission, the opportunity to do that and make a difference in Oklahoma is what attracted me to this job. In a prior career, I worked for AT&T and worked in New Jersey, assigned to our strategic headquarters in New Jersey, and I worked joint ventures in Europe, Asia, and Latin America doing telecommunications, communications infrastructure, and both mobile and landline. So I worked with AT&T's Bell Laboratories at the time to get new products to the marketplace, help to commercialize things so that you produce revenue on the front end and profits on the back end so that you can plow more money into research and development. So there's a cycle there. So it's an exciting job. And I think in Oklahoma, we have an asset base here that's pretty rich. Again, with our higher education system, with our industry complex that includes energy, it includes aerospace and defense, bioscience, biotechnology, information technology, manufacturing, healthcare. The healthcare industry is growing. And so I think there are a lot of things that we can point to that are strengths in a global economy. And the book by Thomas Friedman, The World is Flat. So the world is flat and will get flatter. How do we compete in that kind of world as Oklahoma? The governor of Oklahoma, Kevin Stitt, has this goal of making Oklahoma a top 10 state. And we are top 10 in some areas. I think the kinds of things that OCAST and its strategic partners do are world class, are top 10 in some areas. We want to be top 10 in more areas, and sometimes that takes some strategic investment. It requires working with our politicians, our legislature, the governor and his team to say, how do we coalesce those assets so that Oklahoma becomes not a Silicon Valley, but we can become a technology corridor. taking advantage of our geography, taking advantage of our educational assets at the university level, our industrial base, are the pioneering spirit of the citizens of Oklahoma. And we built in the sports arena. We have more national championships at the NCAA level than every other state except the state of California. So football is with OU and having 5, 6 national championships, OSU with its national championships. So I'm to use that reality to say we can be top 10 in a number of areas, not just athletics, but how do we become a top 10 state in academics, in research activity. And we have 5 military bases in Oklahoma. That is a good starting point, with Tinker Air Force Base, with American Airlines in Tulsa. And so a lot of people referred, and we like to refer to Oklahoma as being a center for maintenance, repair, and overhaul of aerospace and defense activity because of Tinker Air Force Base, because of American Airlines. In addition to Tinker, there are 4 other military bases in our state. That is high tech. That's a high tech environment. They need workers, so workforce becomes important, and we support that. We support STEM activities. We connect our help to connect our industrial base to internships, to our universities, because we need to have the talent base here to attract companies to Oklahoma, to keep companies in Oklahoma. So it all becomes part of what we call an ecosystem. What does Oklahoma's ecosystem look like in terms of science and technology? So we help to connect those dots, and it's just an exciting job to be in because every day there's a little bit something different. There are new challenges out there on a daily basis that I look forward to, and the opportunity to make a difference in our state, elevating our state to a world-class status, some of the aspirational things that we do. But we can certainly count some successes associated with OCAST, associated with what we call Oklahoma Innovation Model. That's a partnership of OCAST and our private sector partners, I2E, the Oklahoma Manufacturing Alliance, University of Oklahoma Innovation Hub, the Oklahoma State University New Product Development Center, each having a set of capabilities. So if we can bring those capabilities together, I think together we can make a difference in making Oklahoma relevant and competitive on a national and international scale. So that's what makes my job interesting. And so you never run out of things to do in this job. There's always something that you say, well, I need to do this, in order to build that ecosystem and to build that technology corridor in Oklahoma. And so that's what attracted me to the job. Again, my background kind of lends itself to that because a lot of it involves technology transfer, intellectual property kinds of issues, and finding out what total addressable markets are and helping convert our research into marketable businesses that hire people. And that's part of my focus, is to create the jobs that create high-paying jobs. And then we focus on technology scans as well, looking at where is the technology going. If it's autonomous vehicles, if it's data analytics, if it's augmented reality, virtual reality, mixed reality, IoT, the Internet of Things, or the next generation of the Internet and broadband, because that's where our world is going. And we see that with what you and I are doing here with Zoom,
Yeah.
and virtual platforms. And so Our world has changed and we'll adapt to it. Technology will play a huge role going forward. And COVID is accelerating a lot of that technology. So we think more creatively, we think more innovatively. And so there's opportunity out there. Video gaming is becoming a huge thing, and several of our universities in the state are granting degrees in video gaming. How do you build an app such as Fortnite and some of those kinds of things that can become hugely profitable. So
video game industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry. It's larger than some film studios. Microsoft recently just acquired a game company for more money than Disney acquired Lucasfilm. So it's a big thing. It's a big industry.
Sure. And so, yeah, we study all of those things, technology trends, and make sure we know where those trends are going so that as we fund grant opportunities, applications, we have to say, you can be successful in these areas because there's a market. Where are the markets for these ideas? You know, and how do they become a reality?
Getting to your presentation, can you kind of give us like a sort of a sneak peek overview of what you'll be talking about?
Sure. I'll talk about the state of technology in Oklahoma and the OCAST role in that. Most of the OVF members know of OCAST because we help sponsor some things. Some of the clients, when they do the elevator pitches, many of the clients or the folks who present during that pitch session they themselves have received OCAST grants. So on their acknowledgement chart, it's made possible through grants from OCAST or the OCAST partner I2E or the Oklahoma Manufacturing Alliance. So a lot of the members, most of the members, I would think, know about the value proposition that OCAST has. So I'll talk about some of what we see as granting opportunities going forward, some of the existing technologies as well as the emerging technologies, and what is that technology progression path? What does Oklahoma do differently than any other states might do? What's unique about Oklahoma in science and technology? And again, weather and radar, autonomous vehicles, cybersecurity. How does that all come together to build this ecosystem? And what do we do as Oklahomans to move that along? The OVF has a role in that because you bring together some potential investors in science and technology products, in innovation, in entrepreneurship. So all of those important, the science, the technology, the innovation, the entrepreneurship, all making a science and technology ecosystem. So I'll talk about the ecosystem. What is an ecosystem? What is Oklahoma's current ecosystem? Aspirationally, where do we want to take this? What's important? How do we strategically invest in a science and technology ecosystem? And I'll talk about some specific examples and and segue over to Craig Shimasaki, who's taken research that was funded by OCAST and taken it to the next level. And so how does that become a research area that's important not only to the state of Oklahoma, but to the nation and to the world in terms of autism, cognitive kinds of things. Mental health will be one of those areas that will only grow as we go forward, understanding brain science. And manufacturing, again, hugely important to this state. Aerospace and defense, hugely important to the state. Energy, both fossil and renewable. So we'll talk about all of those areas that I see and my agency sees as important as we build this technology corridor in Oklahoma. So maybe a subtitle would be building a technology corridor in Oklahoma.
That sounds amazing.
Well, it's an opportunity, and if we commit to it and have the right level of investment, so that we seed things from research to pre-seed, and we have that program called Technology Business Finance Program that's managed by I2E for OCAST, seed capital, angel capital, so that Oklahoma becomes more than just a flyover state. It becomes a destination. And if we have a technology corridor, can become that destination, and we can attract businesses. We can organically grow our own businesses from scratch. And that's basically our task as OCAST, to help businesses grow organically. The Department of Commerce helps to attract businesses to our state from other states. So if you take that convergence of organic growth as well as attracting new growth to Oklahoma, and you asked earlier, what would attract those businesses to Oklahoma?
Mm-hmm.
I think our quality of life, our recreational opportunities, tourism is good. We have museums, and if you're people on either coast sometimes don't understand what's in Oklahoma, but many times when we are able to attract executives and companies to Oklahoma, pretty quickly they find out there's a good quality of life here. There are opportunities here. So I think that's what we sell. That's how we can market ourselves. And the reality is we are good in some research areas. The reality is we have 5 military bases in our state. We have 4 million people in our state. We have cultural things in our state. We have the arts, and we have the sciences. So it's a good state that has good growth opportunity. It just takes a little visionary approach to do it. It requires strategic investment to do it. Good research begets good research, right? Mm-hmm. If we do good research, we can attract more research talent to our state. Whether it's at the University of Oklahoma, Oklahoma State University, the Oklahoma Medical Research Foundation, the Noble Foundation in Ardmore, that's doing leading edge research, plant research, because who's going to feed when our population gets to be 10 billion people, how do we feed 10 billion people? Mm-hmm. So food security becomes important. So the Noble Foundation, as well as our universities, are helping to solve that equation so that we can build hybrid crops that are more drought resistant, more disease resistant. So we become a supply chain and a vital component of helping to feed the world. So just plenty of opportunity abounds. And so it's just rewarding and an opportunity to really make a difference in growing, helping our state to grow and thrive, prosper, create the jobs of today as well as the jobs of tomorrow, and defining the talent base, the talent level that we will need both at the degree level as well as the certificate level. Our career tech is among the best, I think, in the top 5 in the nation in the way that we train and certify technicians. We need more plumbers. We need more electricians, skilled work, welders. And so if we have that balance of degree as well as certificate level folks, that helps to attract companies to Oklahoma. It helps to grow from an organic point of view, companies into larger companies that hire folks at good wages. So the more people, and sometimes the more discretionary income one has, the more you spend on automobiles and homes and consumable items. So, and it's good for our tax base, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's the opportunity and that I have, and I'll be talking about those things in the I think I only had 10 or 15 minutes of discussion. So I'll hit something that's high impact, quick, and creating a mindset. What do you envision for our state in 5 years, 10 years? How do we compete? How do we keep our talent base here such that, if you have kids and grandkids, you don't have to go to Seattle, Portland, Chicago, Boston, Austin to see them. They're right here because we have the attraction to keep them here. So it's just a lot that has some things that need to come together. They've come together with some successful examples today. We want more successful examples. Success breeds success. So, yeah. So that's kind of where we are. I may give a few more examples, maybe an example on the health side, as an example, Craig Shimasaki. On the applied side, we've got companies that are in the manufacturing arena that were able to pivot to produce PPE and for COVID. So some of our manufacturers that were making filtration systems, they can do things that are mask sanitizers. Some of our IPAs, and beverage people in the beverage business can pivot to make sanitizing agents from the alcohol base. So
yeah, there was a lot of breweries that made the pivot to do hand sanitizer. Prairie Wolf was a big one.
Sure. So we've done that very well and gotten some national recognition for doing that because we are Oklahomans. We take that Oklahoma standard comes into play. We have a problem. Let's work together to solve it. One advantage of having only 4 million people, that's a good size state. I think in terms of populated states, we're number 28, I believe, out of 50 states in terms of population. So a good concentration of people here. And what I've seen, a good concentration of the entrepreneurial spirit in Oklahoma. We love a challenge, and we can pull together. We're a small community. Small sometimes is good because we all know each other, particularly in the science and technology arena. I know just about someone out of every research and development entity in Oklahoma. I know about someone from the industrial complex in Oklahoma. If I don't, my team will, our partners will. So I think that's something we can tie a nice ribbon around and say, we can do this because we're a small community and we have, we can pull together resources that we need to really make a difference and make Oklahoma into a top 10 state in a number of areas. So, I think I would position that as a challenge for the OVF community. How do they join this ecosystem? And they are now. So, that's what the organization is about. So, but how do we make it even tighter? How do we make it even more integrated, more collaborative, more partnerships? And if we can do that, I think we have something that becomes our secret sauce, and benchmark. We can benchmark that against other states. We can develop best practices so that we are unique in the area of science, technology, innovation, and entrepreneurship. What's Oklahoma about? What's unique about our environment and our community versus other states? Again, we're not going to be the Valley. We're not going to be Boston Route 129 or Route 29, but we can be uniquely good. And in fact, we can move this ecosystem from good. It's emerging now. It's fledgling to some extent. But how do we move it from good to great? Tom Collins' book, Good to Great. So we look a lot at that model and say, how do you do an asset map? Here's what we've got now. Here's where we need to go. And so it's the kiosk model. You go to the shopping mall, you are here, you want to get there. What's the most direct route to get there? And what's needed to get there?
On the subject of the Oklahoma Venture Forum, what words of encouragement would you like to give to prospect members to join?
I think it's an opportunity to join the community and help with new ideas. So I think the opportunity to refresh the group with new memberships, members who have ideas that we can quote unquote board ideas, use a whiteboard and say, what would you do? What's here now? Understand what's here and where the opportunities are. So I think the membership and membership growth can help us to do that and bring together people of diverse ideas. And that's one of the things I think all organizations are focusing on. How do you make the organization more diverse, in terms of gender, in terms of minority participation. So you see that richness of diversity with diverse opinions and diverse ideas. And out of that, we can hone in on 4 or 5 good ideas that we can take that each player in the ecosystem can take as their mantra and a passion to make happen. So if it's OVF, it's in the investment world. It's understanding where we are with values, with the values map, asset map. Is this what we have? How do we get to that next level? And so I think OVF can help drive that next level thinking, the next level set of ideas that will result in this ecosystem that has strength and it's unique in its focus on growing our technology corridor, because it takes us all. If we're strong as a team, and OVF is a vital a member of that team, because if you look at the membership now, it's people who do entrepreneurial things. It's people who do innovation and interested in that area. It's at the university level. It's at the industry level. It's at the nonprofit level. So I think we have the ingredients. It's just a matter of, getting the right formula, the right equation, and the right focused on the right blueprint for growth. And so I see OVF is playing a role in that. As we come together, and in the meetings I've attended, I've been impressed with the pitch talks, with the networking. And that's another important part of this. How do you network? Because you're building those relationships that are built on trust. So those are the ones that become meaningful. It's okay to have a relationship, but if they're not built on trust and knowledge, with a common knowledge base, with common goals and objectives, then it isn't as strong. So that's where I see the opportunity is in Oklahoma, and that the OVF has an opportunity to contribute to the networking, idea sharing, focus on great ideas that will build a great science and technology capability in our state. So Oklahoma focused, Oklahoma grown, Oklahoma's ability to attract companies from outside. So at the end, it looks like it will be a more prosperous Oklahoma, with good quality jobs, with high paying jobs, with good schools. And the way we fund schools is through taxes, right? So the more companies we have, they pay corporate taxes. They improve our roads, they improve our educational system. So I think you take that complex set of issues. How do we feed into this ecosystem that becomes an ecosystem for science, technology, the STEM sciences that also tangentially are related to the arts, because they're all one. Who designed the a screen
Mm-hmm.
on your computer set. Well, that's probably the artist
Mm-hmm.
who did that, because you got to create that mind share. How do you attract and create messaging that goes along with the technology, so they work in concert. How do you do what you do in writing about these things? It's things that will make a difference going forward and make our lives better. Technology makes our lives. The role of technology is to make our lives better.
Kind of wrap things up, is there like anything you want to say, talk about yourself, or about the work you do at OCAST that you haven't discussed, or you'd like to share, or just put out there for the universe?
I would say that I've been very fortunate to be on advisory committees at the university level and involved in community activity, on several boards at foundations, nonprofits. I serve on engineering advisory committees at OU, at OSU, at University of Central Oklahoma. I'm on the board at the Oklahoma Medical Research Foundation. So a lot of that is focused on research, development, innovation, entrepreneurship. So I'm pretty involved in a lot of those organizations that do those kinds of things. So I think having that perspective is very helpful. Having those connections, very helpful. And those relationships, very helpful in terms of coalescing a science and technology community. So I've been very fortunate to have those kinds of connections and being involved in the kinds of organizations that will truly make a difference in Oklahoma on the science and technology end, quality of life, job creation. So I couldn't be more happy with this opportunity. So I look forward to addressing the OVF and getting some ideas and having some dialogue about where do you think we should go next, from the people in the audience. And that's not just a one-time conversation. It has to be ongoing. It has to be iterative. Okay, we got here with these ideas. Let's build on those. Let's come up with something that we can all buy into that will make a difference, whether that's strategic investment at the state level. And I'm a state organization, so my funds come from the state of Oklahoma. But we also have investment dollars coming from angels, from various venture capital funds across the state that can result in that technology corridor and uniqueness and relevance and competitiveness. We can do this as one state.